Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode number 424 of the Stacey West podcast. I'm your host tonight, Ben, and I am joined by Chris. How you doing, mate? You keeping well?
Hello, mate. You know what? I'm really pleased to be here. I'll be honest, I'm a little bit stressed at the moment. I'm normally the sort of chap that deals with stress pretty well, but there's a few things going on all at once right now, and this is a welcome relief. So I've got a new role at work, so I'm kind of doing two jobs at the moment, which is great and incredibly busy. We've just agreed to sell on our house and I've got all that stuff going on, which is very stressful. We have yet to decide exactly where we're moving to. That's a big decision that we need to make. It's involved lots and lots of discussions. And I've got a bad back.
Oh.
So what I'm going to do right now, and I hope you don't mind, is because I literally finished some jobs and logged in. I have done some prep earlier, but I'm going to have a beer while we're doing this, if that's okay. So cheers, everybody.
I do not blame you.
I'm all right. Just a little bit stressed. There's lots of things all happening at once. So that's me. How are you?
I'm good, mate. Yeah, it's all good at the moment. Just again a little bit. I've been a little bit stressed. Maybe not quite as hectic as you've been, by the sounds of it. But yeah, I also have a new role, but I haven't officially started that yet. So it's all coming together, I think, at the moment. And I did get asked. Normally, we save our patron questions until a little bit further on, but we did have a question in the patron Discord from our good friend Chris, other Chris, not that Chris that I'm talking to, but another Chris who says, has it been therapeutic smashing the F out of your kitchen? I was like, well, annoyingly, our kitchen got ripped out last week and I didn't get a chance to do any smashing.
Aw.
Yeah, they were really efficient. They showed up on like Friday early doors, and by lunchtime it was all ripped out. And I'd been in meetings all morning. I was like, I wanted to swing a hammer about. But yeah.
If you're anything like me, definitely when it comes to being practical, very much a destroyer rather than a creator, and would have loved to have helped rip it out. But it sounds like you didn't even get the opportunity yourself.
No, I was a bit gutted, but that's all going rather swimmingly at the moment. So we're just waiting for a few more bits to happen on that front. But other than that, I'm trying to think what else we've been up to. It's always difficult in this one between like Sunday and Wednesday, because Monday and Tuesday we don't really do a lot with our lives. It's kind of like, we're back at work, so that's a thing. Obviously we very much enjoyed the gig on Saturday night that we went to for See Ferocious Dog, and it was a very enjoyable time. But we actually I'm going to break tradition slightly and get stories from other members of the team in, because Gary has had quite a fun little story today, which he's messages. He's currently on a little break in Marrakesh, and he dropped us a text saying that he'd gone to the old town in Marrakesh, and there was an English couple on the bus. They got chatting to them, and they said, so whereabouts are you from then? And Gary said, we're from Lincoln. And they went, so are we. I was like, okay, right. And then they got chatting, turns out that they live relatively close to where I live, apparently. And they also have a black Shih Tzu dog, which was another sort of weird coincidence from, all over the place from Gary. So he has asked, do we have any strangest coincidences that we've ever experienced?
That's a good question. I mean, that definitely needs to go into the chat for anyone watching as well.
Definitely, yeah.
I'll have a little think. Nothing that jumps out quite like that. Have you got anything along those lines?
Well, we the only one that I have is, it's in a very, very similar vein. Years and years and years ago, when we went on a family holiday to Italy, and we went to this little market town in Italy, and there was like this huge hill, and and as you walk up, it's just like little market stores and shops either side of you. And we were walking up it, and as everyone was coming down, the person that owned the office next to my dad was walking the other way, and he was like, What? They hadn't spoken to each other for months, and they'd booked the same holiday at the same time. It was,
Yeah, that's amazing. I would love to be able to add to this conversation, but I haven't got anything that really fits that. If anything just kind of crops up in my mind between now and the end of the show, I will pipe up. But that's just fun. It's just fun. It's very much a coincidence, isn't it? But to go all the way to Marrakesh, to go to a different continent, and bump into someone who lives near you is a bit weird.
Yeah, not quite on the same level, but I did once walk back from getting my lunch once, and as I was walking towards my house, somebody had their stereo up very loud, and they were listening to the podcast. That was a bizarre moment, but it's all fun and games. But we are obviously here to talk about Lincoln City. We've got a game at the weekend against Wycombe. We will be previewing that a little bit later on. However, there's two bits of news. There was only one bit of news until a little bit earlier that we do need to discuss. And the first one is that Scott Fry has left the club. He has joined Rangers to be part of Danny Roll's coaching team as their dedicated set-piece coach. So basically the role that he agreed with us literally, I think it was just a month ago. He has now left and he's gone off to Rangers. Now, obviously, Scott was technically working his notice period, wasn't he? Because we'd received an offer from a championship club. The club is unnamed. And he, I think, agreed everything. But our understanding of it is that they weren't willing to pay the compensation fee. So Scott said, all right, I'll work my notice then. And during that period, he kind of went, actually, I'd quite like to stay. So we got a new goalkeeping coach in. And then Scott said, I'm going to stay. So we made him the dedicated set-piece coach. It looks like Rangers have come in and they've agreed to pay the compensation fee. And he's left with immediate effect, Chris.
Indeed, yeah, been through a bit of a roller coaster, hasn't he, in the last few months? So just maybe to add a little bit of context to this, because I appreciate we mentioned the evening with Jed a couple of weeks ago, didn't we? And it was a really good, insightful evening, as it always is. Obviously, publicly available. We weren't the only ones there. There was 40 odd people there, I think. But it'd be unfair to give any details away in regard to clubs and things. However, it was nice to get a bit more clarity on the whole situation, wasn't it? So. Yeah, Scott was approached by a championship club, just like I suppose you can get poached in any job. But it wasn't the club that got approached, as far as I know. It was Scott that got offered a new role. Would have been like life-changing in terms of for him and his family. But apparently, standard procedure is when a compensation fee is not inserted in a contract, like it was for Dan and Nick, for example, when they left. They had a compensation fee. A club met it, and they went to Huddersfield. For a goalkeeping coach, which is what Scott was at the time, he was still just the goalkeeping coach. It's not particularly common to have a release clause in a goalkeeping coach's contract. They usually follow round head coaches and managers as part of their coaching team. So what is general consideration is you will either work 6 months as a notice period, or the club that would like your service would then pay the remainder of that contract as a compensation fee. And yeah, it appears that the championship club saw value in Scott in order to offer him a deal, but didn't see enough value in him to justify paying 6 months' salary of his current salary at Lincoln to bring him to the club earlier. And again, I don't know, Scott, we haven't spoken to him about this, but I don't know about you. If I was in that situation, I don't think I'd feel particularly valued by the purchasing club. Like, well, if you want me that much, then pay the in football terms, relatively small compensation fee when you've already going to be spent millions of pounds in the transfer window on players. Like you can expect, I imagine, not a significant fee, not significant at all, relatively anyway, for that. So yeah, I don't know the guy, but I imagine that made you feel. I certainly wouldn't feel particularly valued in that regard. Obviously, we replaced him by bringing David Priest in, but we sold Jovan Makama, so we could then justify having an extra coach full time that's dedicated to set pieces rather than it being a dual role. I think what's worked out quite nicely for us here is that Scott signed a new deal. So the compensation fee that would be required, I think there was then a compensation fee agreed with Rangers that was inserted in his contract this time round. Kind of learned from my mistakes because he's now a set piece coach, and the set piece coach that was responsible for 30 goals scored and a plus 18 goal difference on set pieces last season, which was the best in the league. I seem to think it was the best in Europe. I think I read that somewhere.
Yes,
that's going to get some attention, I think.
Yeah.
So what happened is, Scott said it would have to be, like a complete life-changing offer. But he's going to be sought after because of how well he did with our set pieces. Rangers, obviously, enormous club, new management team in Danny Roll. And I think he goes with our blessing. It's going to be a big gap to fill, I would say, in our coaching team. But he certainly goes with our blessing. But the good thing is, we thought up until a month ago he was going to be leaving the club anyway.
Yeah.
And he still is. But we got a compensation fee now and we wouldn't have before.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think I think that's the key thing is that, we'd kind of prepped for life without Scott. And then he went, actually, I'm going to stay if that's all right. And like you say, the money was there from the sale of Jovan to justify that and make sure that, it didn't have too much of an impact on the finances of everything at the club. So absolutely, as you say, Scott goes with our best wishes. He's obviously done incredible work with us. I actually sat down with the Rangers Review podcast last night to talk about this, and they were saying there's a little bit of hesitation from their fan base because of the links that Scott's got to their director of football, because obviously he was at Wolves previously, and as was Scott. So I think there's a little bit of hesitation there from some of their fans, but I think we're talking about coincidences. I think it is a bit of a coincidence that, their director of football used to be at Wolves. He's not particularly well liked at Rangers at the moment. They were looking for a set piece coach. They've gone for statistically one of the best set piece coaches in Europe, if you're just going purely off the numbers. I think that's more of a coincidence than anything else. It's not like, it's jobs for the boys. Like he's earned the spot and he's earned the move. And I'm delighted for Scott, but obviously, as you say, it does leave a little bit of a hole in the lineup. As we understand it, the club are not going to recruit to replace Scott and will cover it in-house, partly because it was what they were expecting anyway before he signed his new deal, but also it's a bit of a collaborative effort. It's not just Scott did this and away you go. It was a team effort for a lot of stuff. Scott headed up a lot of it, but I think the club feel that they can maybe cover a lot of the work with the staff that remain. So no replacement is incoming as far as we understand it.
Cool. I didn't know that. That's interesting to know. And Scott very much kind of headed up the department, but it certainly is a collaborative approach. Everyone buys into it, and AI is used quite a lot, I think, to analyze like literally millions of set pieces worldwide. And then I think Jez described Scott as basically Rain Man when it comes to set pieces. So I personally feel that, without knowing him personally and without knowing the inner workings of the club in this regard, I think it'll be a big hole to fill, and it sounds like it's not going to be filled with just one person. It's going to be spread around. But it'll be really interesting to see how that progresses. Obviously, really hope that our set piece prowess continues in both boxes. I think that's the key. It needs to be in both boxes because we spent a lot of time discussing and celebrating that we scored 30 goals from set pieces last season, but we also conceded the second fewest as well. So the goal difference for set pieces was huge, and that will absolutely reflect points totals at the end of the or have an impact on the points totals at the end of the season. So I really hope we can continue our prowess. Just quickly on Scott, obviously, wish him well. He's earned a move to a bigger club. I don't really care what Rangers fans think. I think what will be. The proof will be in the pudding, really, won't it, as to be whether they improve their set piece output or not. If they do, then it's money well spent from their perspective. But I think it is just worth noting that that's another member of staff that's come into the club and been poached to go elsewhere. That's another member of staff that came in and has gone up in the world of football, and that happens quite regularly, doesn't it? You must be doing something right if staff are moving on to bigger clubs. Now, I know I saw a question in the chat about the overall quality of the Scottish Premier League. Yeah, I get the point, but Celtic and Rangers are absolutely massive clubs in terms of just club size, bigger than a lot of Premier League clubs. Maybe not in terms of like revenue, but in terms of just size of club, fan base, and of course they're both going to be playing in Europe as well. It's a huge step up in terms of stature, and I imagine in terms of finance as well. So no complaints, but it'll be interesting to see how our set piece statistics kind of move forward from here.
Yep, 100%. So from somebody that's probably, well, it's your two great loves in life, isn't it, Chris? We've talked about somebody that feeds into your stats quite a lot. And now we're going to talk about goalkeepers.
Yay!
Yeah. The other bit of news which did break about an hour ago, Zach Jeacock has signed a new deal with the football club. It's a long-term deal which sees him tied to the club until at least 2029. There is also an option that the club have on the player at the end of that. So just going to read a little bit from the statement. It says, in addition to keeping Jeacock under contract, there is an option which can be triggered by the club. And Jez said, Zach's demonstrated his attributes, potential and development over the past 18 months with his performances in our cup fixtures. So this season, so we are delighted that he's committed his future to Lincoln City. In the short term, Zach will continue to challenge George for the number 1 jersey, but this contract is also about planning and future-proofing at this position. We have a track record in developing goalkeepers with the likes of Alex Palmer, Josh Griffiths and Carl Rushworth currently playing in the Championship, plus Lucas Jensen recovering from a long-term injury who we previously sold to Millwall. I mean, this is just great news, isn't it?
Yeah, really good news. It's feels like a little bit of a change, though. It's probably the first time I can remember us having a backup or second choice goalkeeper in the building already. Oh, I don't like it when managers say in the building because they're outside most of the time, and now I keep saying it. That's really annoying.
In the squad.
Yeah, thank you. Please correct me until the end of time. What was I saying? Oh yeah, it's rare for us to have a backup goalkeeper which has been as dependable as Zach has. And I think it's rare for us to, and what this contract shows is that we probably see Zach as the long-term replacement for George Wickens if and when he goes up onto bigger and better things. Mm-hmm. So I imagine we expect George to be getting attention from the Championship at some point, maybe not right now, but certainly within the next couple of years. And we've got someone in the building already, in the squad already, someone in the squad already who can just take that position without us having to reinvest any of the finance that we have from a potential sale from George Wickens. I don't, for one, expect that to be imminent by any means, but yeah, I think Jez put it quite nicely in saying future proofing, which is really good. But he's been so dependable every time he's played for us, particularly this season in the cups. He got the start against Chelsea, for example. It wasn't George in goal for that game; it was Zach, and he had a great game. So it's all good.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you're right when we say that the club will probably see Zach as the long-term replacement for George. I did see a few people suggesting, does this mean that we're probably expecting interest for George in January? I think it would be remiss if we said the opposite. If players aren't getting attention in January, then it's something to maybe worry about, rather than having to think, if they're getting attention, are we worrying about that? For me, it just makes sense that players that perform very well will get attention from above us. And at the minute, above us, depending on how tomorrow night goes for Stockport, above us is literally the Championship.
Yeah,
So-
indeed. I certainly expect to see George Wickens playing in the Championship within the next couple of years.
Oh,
The
100%.
big question is whether it's with us or not. And
Yeah.
if it's with us, brilliant. And if it's not, then we do what we've done time and time again. Say thank you for your service. We'll have some cash. Good luck in your career. It was mutually beneficial. But the difference this time around is we won't have to reinvest any of that cash to bring in a replacement in. The likelihood is they're already here, and that's could only be a positive.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, if offers do come in for Zach in the meantime, he will also be, well, the club will be heavily protected against anything that comes in for Zach. So yeah, this is just great news all round for the club, I think. And as you said, I can't remember a time when we had two goalkeepers in the squad that were probably not necessarily on a par, because I think there is still a little bit of a gap between George and Zach. But one that when we had a backup keeper, that's fine. It feels quite comfortable at the moment, which is a bit of a weird one.
Yeah, just on that, because I actually felt that Jordan Wright was decent at the time, and again was quite clearly the backup goalkeeper, and there was a significant difference between him and the number one. But whenever he played, kind of felt relatively comfortable. But I think there's a big difference between him and Zach Jeacock, and you only have to see where Jordan Wright has ended up. Of course, got to move to Grimsby. I honestly fully expected him to nail down the number one position at Grimsby and be a very, very dependable League Two goalkeeper, but that absolutely did not happen. Sadly, found himself at bottom of the table Newport and is fighting for a number one shot. It's certainly not his guaranteed at the moment. So strange because I thought he was all right, but yeah, I think the life of a goalkeeper is very up and down. Just quickly on that, bit of a side note, this because I didn't realise for a while that Northampton's current goalkeeper, what's his name? Someone would please help us out in the chat. I forgot the guy's name, but he was. He's had a very up and down career. He's now playing back in League One, but was.
Is it Ross Fitzsimmons?
Yes, thank you. Well, thank you, Ross Fitzsimmons. Because it wasn't that long ago he was playing in the National League North, having previously been playing in the leagues. He's gone all the way down and all the way back up again, and he's performing really well at League One Northampton. So the life of a goalkeeper is very strange.
Yeah, I mean, without meaning to disrespect anybody, yourself included, they're a strange breed, aren't they, Chris?
I can't deny that. None taken.
Yeah, so, right. Well, that is the two big bits of news. We do have a few questions. We've got a few thrown out in the live chat as well. I'll just pick up a few comments here. Steve says, in the building or on the grass, all getting minutes, football speak.
Yeah.
Some good examples there. On the subject of coincidences, that's the word. I forgot how to English. Carl says, stood at the top of Independence Pass in Colorado at 12,095 feet. Me, my mate Cotty and Karen decked out in Lincoln City tops. A car pulls up, bloke winds the window down and shouts, "I've played at Sincil Bank."
Oh, that's amazing. I reckon that might even trump Gary's story.
That's pretty good. Let's just have a quick look. Yeah, so I will bring in some questions from the Discord. So the first couple that got thrown out tonight, well, actually one from Connor on the subject of Scott Fry says, do we know what level of compensation was paid by Rangers to release Fry out of his contract, given that he signed it recently? I don't know if he did have like a proper sort of player or manager release clause in his new contract. Otherwise, it basically probably would have been 6 months' wages.
Yeah, it's impossible to know. I remember in the evening with Jez, he didn't give anything away. Of course, it would be unfair to do so. But what he did say is the club probably learned a lesson in regards to when we signed Scott the first time round to allow ourselves to get into the position where there was no compensation. So I'm inferring from that maybe there was something written in there. So, but yeah, if not, it'll be 6 months' salary. But either way, it's income that we weren't going to get, but it's the outcome that we were expecting it to be up until a month ago. So yeah.
Fair enough. Waddle asks, and this is a bit of a left field one, Chris. If Honohan joins in January, do we exercise Adam Reach's 1-year option in the summer?
Oh, that's a good question. It's difficult to know the answer to that this early in the season, I think. What's great about Adam Reach is he's very versatile. So, yes, he's playing left back for us now and has played there regularly, but it's more than capable of playing in different roles. Also worth pointing out that Honohan is a equally capable right back as he is left back. I think the answer to that is it depends on how well Adam Reach does between now and the end of the season. He's doing really well now, and if he continues to play as well as he does now and continues to play as often as he does now, it makes sense to give him an extra year. In fact, I could be wrong here. Did we just sign Adam Reach on a 1-year deal? I don't know if it does have an actual extension option on it. I don't know if there's an option of that. And it could be, of course, renegotiated. I'm not 100% sure that there's actually a trigger on that at all. Could be wrong. I could be wrong.
I can try and find that out while I also ask the next question, which was a little bit of a fun one. Who would your dream celebrity investors be, Chris?
I don't really know many celebrities. I don't honestly not into celebrity culture at all. I don't know who's good, who's not a dickhead. Someone that's not a dickhead would be great, please. I just assume most of them are dickheads.
Well, you've got to narrow it down between somebody with an awful lot of money and somebody who's not a dickhead. And unfortunately, that pool is very, very small.
Yeah,
it's
well, yeah.
basically a puddle.
Anyone from that puddle, then, please. Don't care who. Someone from that puddle.
Let's have a look. I think there's no mention of an option in the article about Adam Reach. So, yeah, I think it might just be a 1-year deal. Yeah, that seems to be the case. It's just a 1-year deal for Adam Reach. So,
of course, that doesn't mean that we couldn't have a sit down with him and negotiate another year. But yeah, it's difficult to answer that question right now because the big if and button may be about Honohan, and the big if and button may be on how that impacts Adam Reach's playing time. So, yeah, I would love to give you a proper answer, but I don't really think I can.
No, absolutely fair. Right. Other questions that we had. There was a couple that we didn't get round to answering. But yeah, I think that actually just going back through our little chat a bit earlier on, again, a lot of these will probably be ones that you need access to, things that require Gary being back in the country. So one question that we had was, I think you kind of answered it in our chat. So it was, have our pressing stats dropped? The eye test at least seems that we're playing with less intensity. If so, do you think teams may have started to work us out tactically? I shall leave that in your very capable hands, Chris.
Yeah, this is a really good question. And I haven't looked at this today because I need Wycombe to look at it. But luckily, I did look at it like a week or two ago. So up until a couple of weeks ago, I've got a reasonable idea in my head. However, we can't get on Wycombe when Gary's not in the country because he has to let me in with a code, which he can't have access to when he's not here. But the only real way that you can measure pressing intensity at the moment is a metric called passes allowed per defensive action, or shortened to PPDA. It's quite a rudimentary way of measuring it because if your opposition just kicks it in the air down the pitch and you win the header, that counts as 1 PPDA, which would indicate it was really good high intensity press, but they actually just gave you the ball. So there is context, but it's probably the only metric that we really have other than possession winning final third, which gives us an indication as to how quote unquote good or intense a team is in at pressing. Now, our PPDA is pretty much the same as it was last season. And it's kind of like upper mid-table in that regard. So we're not the kind of highest pressers in the league by any stretch, but we're certainly. I always compare it to Mark Kennedy's team because we were bottom of the league with it, like the most passive team in League One. So we're pretty good in that regard. What's really interesting though is what our PPD is at 0-0, particularly in the early part of games. It's really, really low, which means we're not allowing the opposition to have many passes until we engage and win the ball back. So what that shows is that early season, when we were scoring quite a lot of early goals, we came out the blocks flying, pressed really high, stopped teams playing, and we scored. And then we were allowed ourselves to not take the foot off the gas, but to not engage quite so high, encourage the opposition to come on to us, to leave space in behind to try and catch them on the counter attack, as every good football team would do. So the short answer to your question is no, it's not really any different to before. Game state dictates it a little bit, but also what is, which it was a trend towards the end of last season as well, is that fewer teams are playing out against us. More teams are going long from deep against us, which doesn't allow us the opportunity to engage in that press. Now, I'm sure you all noticed on Saturday against Doncaster, our counter press was just, in the first half, was brilliant. So for a good sort of 15, 20-minute spell in the first half, when we were really kind of on top of the game, Donny couldn't get out there third. And the reason for that is because we pressed, and then even if they won it back, we counter press and won it back again, won it back again, won it back again. And it didn't let them out. So I think it's more contextual than just one number. I would like there to be a better metric to really measure it, but the metric that we do have suggests we're pretty similar to last year.
Cool. Okay. Yeah, well, there we go. And that is probably a fair point to go and take a little bit of a break. I did think of a non-dickhead celebrity that has been quite good with their donations and stuff recently, actually, just off the top of my head. Apparently Billie Eilish has been donating an awful lot of money to charity and stuff like that, and calling out people that aren't doing things like that. I'm not necessarily a fan of her music, but I'm all for things like that, making sure that people are good. So yes, we'll take a little break there, and then we'll come back on the other side of this, and we'll say hello to all of the lovely people that are watching on YouTube.
Yeah, good. Before we go back to the break, could I answer Keith's question? Because it's a really good question and it's asked in a really nice way.
Yes.
Cool. Genuinely good question, this, Chris. So do you want to read it out, and I'll just to give a relatively concise answer, because it's a really good question.
It says, I'd like to ask Chris a question that he might like to answer on an occasion. Why does he seem to put all his faith in stats? I personally like the eye test. As someone who played football for many years, I believe football is played on grass, not on paper or a computer. For instance, I watched a video on YouTube comparing two midfielders with stats. The one who came out on top was Frank Lampard, with the other one, according to the stats, was Lionel Messi. Yeah,
and I think that's a really good question. It's a really good question. I appreciate I do kind of try and back up my answers with statistics quite a bit. But I would challenge that I put all of my faith in them. You know, I watch the game just like everyone else does, and that is generally where the majority of my opinion comes from, particularly when watching Lincoln. And I know a lot of people will say, you know, you can make stats say what you like. And with the Frank Lampard and Lionel Messi example, yeah, you're absolutely right. You can. If you kind of had certain metrics that are similar for those two players, and you put them on screen and say side by side, look how similar these players are, then yeah, you're kind of setting a bit of a rhetoric there and painting probably not the most accurate picture, because there are going to be a lot of statistics that are completely different for those two players. Even simple ones such as how many dribbles do they attempt per match, like that's going to be significantly different between those two players. So I think what I like stats for is it helps paint a really clear picture and helps fill in the blanks that you can't see. So the only way that I would personally compare Frank Lampard and Lionel Messi would be to look at every single metric that's relevant to their positions and see how they compare. And I imagine they had more dissimilar than they do similar. And also I think a part of this is about how do we compare to other teams, because we don't watch 90 minutes of every other team. So the eye test is brilliant to see how Lincoln City do, but we can't see every single action that every single player does in the match that we watch, let alone every other match that's happening in League One. So what the metrics are really useful for, in my opinion, is to help paint a clearer picture, to fill in the blanks that you've missed with your eyes, but also how do the stuff that you're really familiar with, how does that actually compare to what everyone else is doing? Because it's only good if it's better than everyone else's, and it's only bad if it's worse than everyone else's. So yeah.
Well, I think the most obvious response to that is you look at the Rotherham game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we all in the group chat, when we were watching the game, went, "This is not very good."
Yep.
And then it was only when you come away from that you go, "Oh, but actually, statistically, we probably had more chances." And there is a definite line between, purely being on the eye test and then purely being based on stats. Because the other thing is, you can't watch a game of football live and rely on statistics, because the only stats you're going to get are how long have you had the ball, how many times have you passed it, and how many shots have you had. Because everything else really comes in after the fact, don't they? So
totally agree. Totally agree. And there was an interesting comment on last week's YouTube video about the Rotherham game, which I think maybe missed the point a little bit, because you're right, and this was weird to look at. Like, statistically, we were slightly better than Rotherham, yet we lost 3-0. And we all know, watching this, that we were not the better team on that day. We didn't deserve to win the game. But statistically, we shaded some of the things that you'd measure. But that on its own doesn't tell the whole story, does it? We all were there. We know that wasn't the case. Did the statistics show that maybe we didn't deserve to lose 3-0? We weren't that bad, maybe. Or did it show that Rotherham maybe weren't that good? Maybe. But we all know that we weren't great, and we could see how they kept getting in behind on our left side over and over again, that there was gaps performing. So it's a combination of the two to try and paint a really clear picture that you might miss if you just only look at the numbers or you only look at the game. Anyway, that's probably enough on that. But it's a genuinely good question, because I appreciate it's not everyone's cup of tea, but it's in the aim of trying to have as clear and informed opinion as possible. That's the idea behind it. And I hope everyone tunes into this to get informed opinions. So that's the reason. I'll be quiet now.
Cool. We'll go for a break now.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. I thought that was the break.
Well, it depends how I edit it, but I mean, I can leave that in. I can leave that in the pod if you want me to. I don't mind.
Okay, you can. I don't mind either way.
So cool. Right, let's say hello to some folks. Andy's in. Devon Imp says evening from a chilly Plymouth. Flossie's in, says good chill evening from Flossie. Dave Tuplin's in, as ever, says evening everybody. Mick Kennedy once again in from the Philippines. Mate, I'm still amazed. It must be like 3:00 in the morning, and you tune in every single week. It's fantastic. Ian is in from London. Maybe not quite as fantastic as the Philippines, but we appreciate all the same on that one. Who else have we got in? Pete Steele's in, says evening. Berris doesn't quite have the same ring to it as Bemley does.
Yeah, and that's fair.
I did think like that there would potentially be one, I was like Briss, but then I thought no, that has some weird connotations to it. Yes, the wife is watching from the living room. Ollie is in, says evening all, good to see you on Saturday, mate. Gerard's in, says evening all. Ian also says enjoy the beer, Chris. I'm guessing it's nearly gone now.
It's gone. Yeah, cheers. By the way, this is lovely beer. It's a new favourite of mine. I appreciate this makes it come across as a very snobby hipster, but it's a peach beer called Peachy Days by Brewgooder, and it is exceptionally nice. So there you go.
There we go. Right, Steve is in. It says evening, gents. Steve Jones actually makes a very good point that I will bring up in the second half of the show. Who else? John Davison's in, says evening all. Kev's in, says great news, re Zach looks top keeper potentially and will step up big when Wickens leaves for the big bucks. I think we're absolutely in agreement on that one. Brian's got a coincidence here. It says in 1981 I moved to Colompton in Devon. After 2 months a new neighbour moved in next door. He too was from Links, and it turned out his mum and my mum knew each other from their childhood, both having spent time near Coningsby. Brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. I love it. It's just great when stuff like that happens. Rach did have one as well. I'm not going to highlight the comment, but I will read it out. It says, so her birthday this year, we went to Cheshire. She got talking to somebody in the evening at the bar who went to the same senior school as her. Her parents lived down the road from her parents, and she was also called Rachel. So there is that one. Molwall is in, says it's bloody freezing, chaps.
Yes, it is. I don't like it.
Jacob says, good evening, Chris and Ben up the imps. Sorry I'm late. No dramas at all, mate. You join us whenever you can. It is all gravy. And Keith says, good answer, Chris. XG is the one that winds me up, but it's only good as the person inputting the info. Thank you for answering. So there we go. Right. That is the break, and we're going to come back. That was actually quite a long break compared to what we normally do. So we'll probably add 10 minutes. Yeah. In my head, got the timings ready. Right. So we'll come back in 3, 2, 1. And that was an advert of some description. We have had a good old chat with the folks that are watching live. And I'm not 100% sure if I will have edited it back into the podcast or whether we will leave it as an exclusive for YouTube. But there was a comment asking Chris about his love for stats. So if you want to check that out, do jump on the YouTube channel and check out the archive of the video. It was a good answer. It was a really good
question as well. That's the way to ask a question.
Yes, absolutely it is. So there was another point that was raised in the live chat at the minute by Steve, and he said, so we could go top tomorrow without even playing a game.
Oh, yeah.
That's brilliant. If Peterborough beat Stockport tomorrow night, we will go top of the table. Now, is it dirty to think I might watch the game and maybe support Peterborough?
No. Now, both of us, but myself particularly, I think, have poked fun at Peterborough a little bit this season, and I'm not a massive fan of the football club. However, that was partly fueled by the fact that I don't like Darren Ferguson as a bloke, as well as the club itself. Not a massive fan of them. Bit of a rival, obviously, for us. Annoyingly, I do quite like Luke Williams as a bloke. So still don't like Peterborough, but I quite like Luke Williams. So I think I can allow myself, for that reason, to hope they win tomorrow night. That's my own very personal view. I maybe feel a little bit uneasy about it, but I think I can allow myself to do it if it's for the greater good of Lincoln City going top of the league.
Yeah, 100%. And just as a little tangent, I did watch Darren McAntony's podcast last night because he had a little bit of a fit the other week because the guys from the Up the Poshcast were a little bit critical. I think that's probably a little bit of an understatement, but they were quite critical of him on a few recent episodes. So he had his what he called his Darra's Debate Right to Reply podcast last night, where he had three of the lads on from the podcast. The way Darren McAntony wins a debate.
I know what you're going to say.
I think this is very similar to somebody saying, I'm going to fill up a glass of water and just putting a fire hose on it. Like, yes, you've probably technically done it, but it's not the best look. Like it was he fired out a question and they started to answer and he went, yeah, but then there's this, and he just kept talking over them, and I was like, this could have been really, really good, but it wasn't the best. Wasn't the best listen from a posh fan point of view. I would imagine from everybody else point of view, it's a bit funny.
yeah, a bit funny.
Yeah, but there we go. Right, so are we ready, Chris, to talk about Wycombe? Because we're going there on Saturday. They've changed their identity quite a bit in the past few years. They used to be a bit of an aggressive, direct side and all the rest of it. But I think we played them because obviously shortly after Sir Gareth left them, they started to put it on the ground a bit and play a bit of football. And following a bit of a sticky start to this season, they put a good run together. And this feels like a dangerous time to be going down there and playing them, Chris.
It does, yeah. Yeah, you're right. Bit of a change of identity, really. Because I think the reputation of a club sometimes doesn't always align with the reality of what that club is in comparison to everyone else in League One. And we probably feel that a little bit ourselves, I would say, as Lincoln fans, because I think a lot of the wider football world sees us as little old Lincoln. And I think we probably quite like it. We like playing the underdog a little bit, don't we? I certainly do. And Wycombe, for many, many years, were little old Wycombe. And they were punching above their weight just to maintain themselves at this level. Budget-wise, was always in the bottom few. Gareth Ainsworth was doing what was seen as a miracle to keep them in League One. And then, of course, went up in the season that was curtailed by COVID. I think they went up on points per game, didn't they? And had a season.
That's right. Yeah.
And And they were playing a very distinct style, which is very direct, very risk averse, and very, very effective. But let's not deny that that's a style that normally suits teams that are punching above their weight. When you haven't got when you've not got a talent advantage on the pitch, how do you create an advantage for yourself? It's with physicality. It's by being good in both boxes. It's by being smart, basically. And we've, I think, taken an element of that in our games. They then got some new owners who have got all the money in the world, I think. And Wycombe's reputation is still little old Wycombe, but I think the financial side of the club is chalk and cheese compared to where it was before. I wouldn't be surprised if their budget was double ours. And I honestly don't think I'm exaggerating with that. I still don't think it's going to be the top in League One or anything, but I think it's going to be up there. But there are also, I think there's two things this season specifically, which maybe doesn't paint an accurate picture of where Wycombe are right now. Number one, reputation we just mentioned, it's little old Wycombe. Number two, they had a terrible start to the season. First 8 games, lost 5 of them, drew 2, won just 1. So 5 points from 8 games. Obviously found themselves in the relegation zone. I've had 2 very, very active transfer windows, one in the summer, one in January primarily, and were significantly underperforming. So the reputation of little old Wycombe, plus that they started the season poorly and they're still only in 14th position in the table, and we're, as you mentioned, could go top tomorrow and we'll certainly be in the top 2 come the match. I don't think Lincoln City being second and Wycombe being 14th and the reputational mentality, I suppose, behind those 2 positions, I don't think that paints a very clear picture, because since Mike Duff came in, they have played 8, won 4, drawn 3, lost 1, and were good for it. All the metrics align that is probably what should have happened as well. They are 5th in the form table over the last 8 games, and a lot of their underlying performance data in terms of their attacking metrics specifically are like top 6.
It's really good, isn't it?
Yeah. So basically, they're a really good team. And if we can get a point there, I think that's a great result. It's going to be a really tough afternoon. Mike Duff's a great manager at this level, knows how to structure teams to get points and win at this level, and to make it very difficult for opposition teams to score goals.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I would say in terms of setting expectations, ignore the league table. This is a team that has got a significantly more expensive squad than we have, and are one of the form teams in the league and are performing at a level they should have been performing at all season. Their weak point was the manager. It's not actually often that's the case when managers get sacked, but it was this time. He was the kind of the weak link, it would appear, because a good manager, competent at a level, is now getting out of the squad what should have been achieved anyway. So short answer is they're pretty good, Ben.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking through a few bits, and like you say, it's that sticky start to the season. I think that's maybe putting them in. I don't like using the term, but a false position. That they are starting to play some decent football now. You know, if you take out the Port Vale game at the weekend, they have been scoring for fun. They beat Huddersfield at home 3-0, beat Plymouth 2-0 at home, 4-1 against Leyton Orient, and then 3-0 away in the trophy in the week as well. So, it's, they clearly know where the back of the net is. They are 3rd in the table for total shots. They are 3rd in the table for expected goals. They are 4th in the table for accurate passes per match, and they are 2nd in the table for accurate long passes per match. That's the mark of a good team.
Yeah, I'm really pleased you mentioned the long passes there, because there are a team that likes to possess the ball, average 55, 56%, something along those lines, in the top kind of handful of teams in terms of possession. And I think when you see that, because possession is a stat that I think, even if you're not into stats, you notice that one, don't you?
Yeah.
And when you see a team that likes to really possess the ball, it paints a picture in your mind of what you expect. Oh, you expect a team to play out from the back. You expect them to maybe have 100 passes between their back four before they possess the ball and they try and walk it into the net. Some of the criticisms of that style of play and maybe how you'd associate it And I think what's really interesting about Wycombe is that you said that they're also second for successful long passes as well. Now, if you have more of the ball and more of them are long, then you've got more likelihood of the total percentage, the total amount of successful passes being higher if you're attempting more passes anyway. But it just really goes to show that they're not one-dimensional. They don't just keep the ball for keeping the ball's sake. Mike Duff's teams never have. So, yeah, they're really adaptable. They can mix it up really well. And it's going to be a really tough afternoon because I don't think they have any real obvious weaknesses other than maybe inconsistent at centre-back. But I'm kind of clutching at straws there, really. Just touching on their 3-0 win against Huddersfield, because we briefly mentioned our 3-0 loss against Rotherham, didn't we? Maybe in the break, maybe you left it in, depending on what you decide to edit. But we mentioned that, we did deserve to lose that game, but we didn't deserve to lose 3-0. Now, Wycombe beat Huddersfield 3-0, and Huddersfield did have a red card, but it was one of the most one-sided games I've ever seen. So they were so good for it. It just goes to show how the same scoreline can have two completely different feels of the game. But they're good. It's been really difficult for us to break them down. I think our best opportunity is to try and stop them playing, try and defend our box well, and we can't even say we can take the most of set pieces here because they've only conceded 1 goal from set piece all season.
Yeah, and we've just lost Scott Fry. Yeah, look, I mean, it does seem. You say about the attacking metrics and everything else. The only thing that I can see is that the defensive metrics, they seem to be towards the bottom of the table for a lot of them. But I wonder if that's just because they're keeping the ball a lot and they're not letting people get to that stage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's difficult to analyse because they've had half of their matches they've played so far were with their previous manager, and half of the matches were with their current manager. And there's been such a stark contrast between those two periods of 8 matches. But the average between the two is kind of, it doesn't paint an accurate picture because that's an average of 2 completely different elements. So yeah, if you've got an underperforming team that's performing well on the metrics overall, then that gives you a really good indication that bloody hell, they must be good going forward. I don't think they're as bad as their defensive metrics suggest they are defensively, because they've improved significantly since Mike Duff came in that regard. Shining light, though, because that sounds quite negative. Little shining light. Only Stockport have scored the first goal more often than we have. So they've scored the first goal in 12 of their matches. We've scored it in 10 of ours. And only Exeter and Orient have conceded the first goal more often than Wycombe have. They've conceded the first goal 9 times. So if we can come out the blocks quickly, if we can score an early goal, and if we can then keep them at arm's length and defend our box really well, we've got a good chance. I think if we can score in the first half, score the first goal, then we'd have a decent opportunity to hold on to that. They're obviously very good in the second half if you look at the metrics in terms of goal scoring, but I wonder whether that is because they concede the first goal regularly. So as much as we had a great result against Doncaster and there were some really good elements of that performance, I would say something that we were brilliant at the start of the season was coming out the blocks flying. Mm-hmm. I would say in the last 3 or 4 matches, I haven't recognised that as much. It hasn't been as obvious. I mean, lots of other clubs are probably quite wise to it now as well, which has a role to play. But if we can be as aggressive and as high intensity out the blocks as we have been in the majority of games this season, and we can do what we did in the first few matches of the season and score when we're doing that, we've got a good chance. I think the longer the game goes on, the less likely it will be that we win. Sorry, that's the silly thing to say. The longer the game goes on at 0-0, the less likely it is that we'll win. I think I can see them being more likely to score a late goal at 0-0 than us to score a late goal at 0-0. If that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I can see what you mean when you say about, the key is probably going to be getting that early start, so that quick start going. I think there's probably been some criticism around that. Probably some of it's been fair, some of it probably has been a little bit OTT, but it's criticism on the internet. What do you expect? I think the fast starts that we were seeing at the start of the season, they have dropped off a little bit. I don't think I think anyone would deny that. But yeah, I hope we can get back to that. And it leads me on to a question from Andy, who says, "What is your team for Wycombe on Saturday?" Starting 11, Chris. I would say that if Ben House is fit, he has to start in that number 10 role.
Yeah, this is a really tough choice because Frankie Okoronkwo, I think, put in his best performance in a Lincoln City shirt on Saturday against Doncaster. I thought he was really, really good. I know he missed a big chance, but he scored a good goal, and his all-round play was in and out of possession. I thought he was excellent. And Ben House has been occupying that left-sided position for a while. Obviously, Eric Ring did it for a couple of weeks as well. But I'm talking about those two players because that's where Ben House has featured previously. More so than he has in the 10 role, which is odd because I expect to see him in the 10 role more regularly this season. But the reason for this is because Fred has been occupying that 10 role for the last few weeks, hasn't he? And I think he's done a reasonably good job.
Yeah.
But I do think he's limited in that role. He's hardly a conventional number 10, is he?
No.
So he's more of a
I want to say like that's not me saying Fred's crap, get him out. I just think we need to see, if we want to have a fast start, it feels to me that we need to have Ben House in that 10 role doing Ben House things. And when I say Ben House things, I mean shit house things.
Yeah. So this is the point I was making, is that how you want to set your team up that it plays to your strengths, obviously, but also counters the opposition's strengths. And their centre backs are fine in terms of their aerial prowess, but they're not dominant. There's only really Connor Taylor who is in the top sort of 30% of aerial centre backs. The rest of them are not brilliant at that. So if we are likely to want to go and hit the front line early, like we often do, I kind of like Fred on the pitch for that. But I think James Collins has to start. I think actually something that's overlooked of James Collins' play is his link up. I think he's really smart with his link up. He drops into really clever positions, gets the ball to feet. And Fred's still learning that. I'm not saying he's poor at it, but I think he's learning it. Collins obviously not quite as physically dominant as Fred is, but can still play with back to goal. So for me, it's like, do you start Fred or start Collins up top? Because I think we need an element of a physical presence up there. But I'm totally with you. I think Ben House starts in the 10 if he's fit. But I just worry that if we do that, and we are forced to go longer, quicker, do we lose a bit of that aerial dominance on that front line? Difficult to know. I suppose that's why we don't get paid the big bucks, is it?
Absolutely not. And I think the other thing to probably have a think, but I mean, other than that, I don't really foresee too many changes from Saturday. I think a week on the training pitch, we know that when we have a week on the training pitch, we're usually a bit better. I think that will probably be, well, I wouldn't expect to see too many changes from the Doncaster game. Maybe one on the bench. I'd like to hope that after another week, Jack Moylan maybe makes the bench for us. But yeah, I can't see too many changes from Saturday otherwise. But let's talk about a few of the Wycombe players, because I think obviously the two that really stand out for me as they're good are Luke Leahy and Fred Onyedinma, who, yeah, I think he was at Wycombe years ago, wasn't he? Then he went away. He went to Luton for a bit and then went back.
Yes. I can't remember where he went, but he definitely
was
at Wycombe and then came back. Let's have a look. I've got his profile up on my screen right now. You keep talking and I'll come back.
But yeah, I mean, Fred is I'm going to call him Fred because I've fall over that surname many times. He is currently their top scorer. He seems to be performing really well out on the right wing. Can play right wing back as well. So if they need to shore things up towards the end, I'm sure they'll manage to do that with him coming back. But yeah, he just seems to be on fire for them at the moment. And the same with Luke Leahy. I think he's their leading assists contributor. He's just a class. He's just a class above And that's not to disparage anybody else in the squad, but he just seems to be, or those two definitely seem to be the ones to watch, I think, on Saturday.
Yeah, totally agree. They are by far the two current standouts in the squad. You're right, by the way, on Onyedinma. He was at Millwall as a youngster. Actually had a couple of loans at Wycombe before joining them permanently, and then he moved to Luton for a couple of years before having a loan at Rotherham, and then joining Wycombe as a free agent last summer. Yeah, and he's excellent. So 5 goals, 2 assists from 13 starts. He's well, if you're looking at FOTMob, which is decent, it's not as in depth as others, but it's a good comparison of how does this player compare to other players in the same position. Like almost everything is green, so which basically means he's in the top 25% of pretty much every single metric that you can measure, and that includes defensive metrics as well, aerial metrics as well. Compared to other players that play on the wing, he is good, really, really good. We need to be able to stop him. He has been playing primarily on the right hand side, but he does play either side, but it's primarily playing on the right. So he's going to be up against our left side. Do have a little concern with Adam Reach's maybe his lack of pace against Onyedinma's very, very, very obvious pace.
I mean, on the flip side for that, we talk about doubling up going forward, but there is also the ability to double up going back. And we've seen quite a bit from Okoronkwo in terms of his ability to get back and defend quite well.
Good point.
So that does maybe give me a glimmer of hope.
I hope so. I just think it's worth, you've got to credit the opposition and point out their strengths there. They're not just faceless henchmen, are they? They are.
No.
They're going to want to win as much as we do, and they have some real good talent in their squad. And you mentioned Luke Leahy, who is he's probably the only player really. I suppose Onyedinma fits into this because he was there historically, but has been away and come back. Like Luke Leahy has been there for ages. He's probably the only real survivor from a previous era. And the reason for that is he's one of the better players in his role in League One. 5 assists so far, but creates loads of chances, loads of interceptions, just creates the foundation of Wycombe's midfield, allowing everyone else to thrive ahead of him. So yeah, he's going to be a tough player. And maybe that's the reason to pick Ben House. And maybe that's kind of just sold that to me really, because Ben House is going to be likely directly up against him if he plays. I can't think of another better player in the squad that's more suited to stopping a key player playing, if that makes sense. Because we did it against Reading. I think House started against Reading, didn't he? I could be wrong. And Lewis Wing, who is one of the best players in League One, hardly had a kick because we stopped him playing. We just didn't give him a second on the ball. He had to go and get deeper and deeper and deeper to collect the ball, and was unable to influence the game, though he still hit the post from 30 yards out because he's Lewis Wing, and that's what he does. So, yes, they're 2 danger men for Wycombe.
Ben House did not start against Reading.
Did he not? Oh,
No.
Because he got injured against West Brom in pre-season, didn't he?
Yeah.
Well, what that means is that whoever played in that role stopped Lewis Wing playing. And well done, that man, whoever it was.
In the 10? That was Jack Moylan.
Oh, we'll just give him a start then. It'll be fine.
No, so there we go. As you say, I think it's going to be a tough one on Saturday. I'm presuming that we have all of the internationals, or both of the internationals, back with us now. Obviously, Dexter Lembakisa failing to qualify outright. I think they've got to go through the playoffs there now. So a bit of a disappointment for him. But we'll see. I don't think we need to change the midfield, to be honest.
No, I can't see many changes. I think it's just the dynamic of that front 4 is the question mark. The rest is, I think, pretty set in stone. Maybe Riley Towler for Adam Reach if we need defensive solidity, but Reach has such massive upside in possession and dead balls, doesn't he? It just makes sense to have him on the pitch. If we can protect him with an energetic left winger ahead of him. Predictions?
I'm going to do a Chris on this one. I'm going to say my heart says 1-1, but my head says 1-0 Wycombe.
I think 1-0 Wycombe as well. And I don't like saying it, and I hope I'm wrong. But yeah, 1-0 Wycombe is my prediction too.
Yeah, it just feels like this is the first time really when I'm looking at a team that we're coming up against and going, oh yeah, they're quite good. Maybe Bolton. I think obviously, they made a lot of changes, and I think we probably played them at the right time in that they were still finding their feet. But I think Bolton probably the other side where I'm looking at them going, yeah, they're quite good.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think it's weird because it feels like we're in the proper season now.
Yes.
So you've got enough understanding of who's good and why they're good, who's bad and why they're bad. In fairness, there's not many bad teams in League One this year. Even when we played Bolton, you had a huge respect of how good they were going into the game, huge respect of how good they were whilst watching the game. But it was early in the season. They're still finding their feet, as a lot of other teams are. Whereas now you've got a good idea of who's good. And they are. Wycombe are good. Wycombe are good. And mention this, actually. I can't remember who I was talking to. It might have been at the weekend to somebody. In that there's been so many big teams or bigger spender teams, the bigger hitters in League One, who have started the season really slowly. And of course, quite a few teams, therefore, probably unexpected teams that would have been occupying that kind of top 6 or 7 in League One. Of course, us being one of them, to the outside looking in. Even to us, we expected this to be mid-table, didn't we? Now, I'm not saying they're all going to do it, but you fully expect to see those teams with bigger resources to gradually start to climb the table again. You expect to see those less fancied teams currently towards the top of the table to not be as consistent as other teams that often find themselves at the top of the table. I just think we've got a League One that's going to get so condensed and be really, really, really tight, which is really exciting.
Well, I mean, it kind of is already. Wycombe are only, they're on 14th, and they are only, in inverted commas, 8 points behind us.
Well, that's the point. That's exactly the point. Is that I think it's only 8 points separate first to 16th or something.
Yeah,
like that. So, yeah, I think if you just look at the league table and say, "Oh, it's second playing 14th," I just think that's just such an inaccurate representation of each team at the moment. So, yeah, let's just really respect them. I don't like to be pessimistic, but they're good. We're decent. We're on our day. We're a match for anybody, but Wycombe do concern me a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. Right. I think that's probably enough for the preview then. I don't think there is a huge amount of other things that we do need to talk about. However, there was one thing that I did see this week, and it's been kind of on the radar for a little while. And every time I've seen it, I've gone, oh no.
What is it?
The EFL sticker book comes out tomorrow, Chris.
Oh no.
Yeah. Oh no.
I wonder how much money we're going to spend collectively in the Stacey West team on that. Maybe we should have a joint sticker book for the whole Stacey West. And we all contribute, and then we can all stay sane.
Well, yeah, but the thing is, I know full well that if we do that, number one, the book will end up at Gary's house, and number two, there will be tiny little penises drawn on so many players' faces after they score against us.
Yes, both points completely fair.
Yeah, but no, I caught an advert for it yesterday, and I was like, oh no, that's gonna take some money up, isn't it?
Yeah, I can't. Don't let me do it. Don't let me do it.
I'm really tempted to just kind of find out the numbers of Lincoln's page, and then just send off to Panini and order the stickers directly. And be like, yep, cool, I've got the Lincoln stickers.
Well done for doing that, but that's kind of cheating.
Shh. Sorry. It's also saving, I think I saw somewhere someone saying that we've got it costs in the region of £300 to fill a sticker book these days.
Good Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think Rach is watching, so Christmas present, please. Right. That will... I think that's probably a good spot to wrap the podcast up. And yeah, don't think there's anything else unless you have something, Chris.
No, all good. All good.
Beautiful. Well, it's as always, it is a pleasure and a delight to podcast with you, mate. And we will be back on Sunday. I think it's me and Charlie.
Yes, this will be, I think, the first game of the season that I can't watch live.
Oh, because you're playing.
Yeah, I'm playing. Yeah, so Charlie's on because he is going to watch the game, which is
Sending you
Probably a
out
good
on loan
idea.
all over the bloody place at the minute. Imps Plus again did very, very well, by the way, on Saturday. And
Thank you.
Got you on Imps Plus, and then you're out to bloody Raisin. I don't know. We're going to have to start charging fees for these loans. It's ridiculous.
I mean, I'm fine with that. If we get that, I'm not expecting it, but if we can make a few quid, then why not?
It just goes into the Stacey West end of season kitty, so
yes,
we'll be fine.
Correct.
Right, we'll see you later on, guys. Take care, and as always, up the imps.
Up the imps.